Hello, beautiful souls. Thank you so much for dropping by this channel. To anyone who's new, this channel is about the difference between authentic traditional non-duality, specifically Advaita Vedanta, the Vedic or Indian expression of non-duality, and watered down, pseudo-modernized, fake non-duality called Neo-Advaita. You can find out more about these things on my website, which I've put links over there and below. I am ecstatic right now. I am so relieved and delighted and peaceful and hopeful. I was feeling a little stuck in my journey of exiting Neo-Advaita. And I've had the grace and extreme grace and good fortune to start studying with a traditional Advaita Vedanta teacher. And she just answered one of my deepest questions. So a little background, it's a course, it's structured that I'm taking with her. It's live and interactive. And the first couple courses, we really didn't talk about non-duality much. It's more about the foundations of non-duality, but said another way, the foundations of how to live a harmonious and virtuous life, to prepare for the non-dual journey or inquiry, which is really interesting in and of itself. So this is class 4, and classes 1 through 3 didn't talk about non-duality almost at all. The things we think of as non-duality, like less than 5% of the class. And even today, we got into some of these things about our true nature, maybe 10% of the class, maybe 15%. Because in traditional non-duality, there's a lot of foundation laid. And so but to this class, we went into it a little bit more than the previous classes. And I shared with her that I was starting to feel terror. And the reason why, is because I'd experienced all these teachings about the river merging into the ocean and, becoming nothing and destroying individuality and all these things that I'd heard in Neo-Advaita satsangs for over, I have to take a look, but it was a good 20 years that I spent in Neo-Advaita satsangs. And so we're in this class, we're finally starting to talk about, what is Atma? What is my true nature? What is our true nature? And I just told the Swamini, and that just means a female Swami, I'm starting to feel terror. And her answer was brilliant and potentially life-changing, and really speaks to the difference between traditional non-duality and pseudo-non-duality. And what she said is that, to take the metaphor, and it's not my metaphor, it's a very common metaphor of the river merging into the ocean. She said, in non-duality, it's not so much that's a metaphor, but it's not so much that the river merges into the ocean and then completely vanishes and disappears. It's more so, fasten your seatbelts, it's more so that the river realizes that it is of the same nature as the ocean. The river realizes that it's not just a tiny little river, that it has the fullness that the ocean has. And it's so full and it's so free that it can actually engage and make use, and I'm paraphrasing what she said here, can make use of the various forms that it's been given, such as the body, such as the mind, without being limited by them. In fact, it can enjoy the various forms and not be limited by them. And in fact, put those forms to service, because that's what Dharma is. And that's a whole nother topic. And what I really realized is just how much Neo-Advaita truly is spiritually suicidal nihilism. Neo-Advaita's teachings are all geared around destroying individuality. Traditional non-duality, not at all. She said the only thing you have to destroy is the idea that you are these various forms. Whereas Neo-Advaita will say things like, destroy the mind, end individuality. And it left me completely dysfunctional and at war, completely at war. Like, okay, destroy my individuality, destroy my desires, destroy my mind. Well, what the fuck do I do with my time? Like I'm inhabiting this body. I have this house. I have a cat. I have creative impulses. I have desires. Well, what do I do? Neo-Advaita is like destroy, negate. Traditional Advaita, traditional non-duality, is the art and science of aligning those desires with Dharma. It's a very deep word, what Dharma is, but the short version is harmonious actions that contribute to society. And for your life to be a form of worship. I don't even have words for how different traditional Advaita and Neo-Advaita or Neo-non-duality, it's night and day. Neo-Advaita steals some language and then twists and distorts them into an insane nihilistic philosophy. So I am just so grateful. I'm grateful to be able to share some new insight with the people on this channel. And if anyone has any questions or comments, please feel free to post them now. On my website, under where it says resources, I give some resources for some traditional non-duality teachers so that you can get the actual teaching. Because what Neo-Advaita is offering is not. It's really not. It contains little bits and pieces here and there. You'll get some genuine wisdom. But what I've been realizing, I've been talking about this for about 4 years now, is just that it's an insane distortion. With little speckles of truth here and there. But now what I can see today is it's a life killing and a soul killing distortion. Neo-Advaita is. So I am just delighted by this clarification, and Neo-Advaita is just a religion. It's just a conservative, twisted, fundamentalist religion. That's all it is. A harmful that it borders on a cult, and some Neo-Advaita teachers have created cults around them. But what's the difference between a religion and a cult? Like a cult is basically just a very harmful religion that's like maybe smaller than your average religion. Well, that's what Neo-Advaita is. A quasi-cultish religion that is very destructive. And cults, see, the thing is, cults aren't all bad. They do offer benefit, or let me say it another way, they offer benefit. Like if cults didn't offer benefit, then no one would join them. But they do offer benefit. They offer community. They offer short-term solutions. They offer spiritual highs. And they offer other things too, usually arrogance, like we know the truth and nobody else does, and we are better. It offers this exclusionary kind of teaching that then leads to arrogance. But in the short term, it creates this sense of community amongst the members. So I don't say that to encourage people to join a cult or join Neo-Advaita, but to recognize that part of why Neo-Advaita is so hard to leave is it does offer short-term feel-good things. And again, it offers some little pieces of genuine wisdom here and there. So last call for questions or comments before I log off. Rowan Groen, you are so welcome. part of why I do this channel is to assist my own recovery. Make no mistake about it. Neo-Advaita is not a simple thing to let go of and to overcome. Maybe if you don't go so deep into it, but for those of us who went really deep into it, Neo-Advaita really is a form of brainwashing. I'm not saying impossible, but very hard to undo. It's not an easy. So I don't want to minimize how dangerous Neo-Advaita is, how harmful it is, and how difficult it is to overcome. But I also don't want to, create this like story of terror, like, oh, I've been damaged beyond repair. No. But in my experience, I'll put it that way. In my experience, Neo-Advaita is ridiculously harmful and ridiculously hard to overcome, but it's not impossible. It's not, I don't want to paint that picture at all. I've made huge progress in the last 4 years. I've got a long way to go. Heart of a warrior. Gracias a ti, amigo or amiga. You're very welcome. So I think for myself, I want to take very seriously how I've been impacted by Neo-Advaita. And Neo-Advaita is such a mind fuck that, even though it completely rewires how we think. So, okay, I just said, I don't want to minimize how the ways that Neo-Advaita has impacted me. Well, Neo-Advaita will say, you can't be impacted. You are the self. That's what I'm saying, right? That's what Neo-Advaita would respond to that statement. That's how powerful Neo-Advaita is. It gets in really deep and reprograms how we think and how we speak. I met someone who one day she's like, oh my God, I am suffering so much. Like Neo-Advaita really messed her up, harmed her. She's like, oh my God, I am suffering so much. I need help. And then her Neo-Advaita brainwashing came in. So that's one voice. Oh my God, I'm suffering. I'm so much. I need help. Then her Neo-Advaita brainwashing was like, well, if you just realize there is no you won't have any problems. All your problems stem from the fact that you think you're you. And then her response, and this is a dialogue she's having in her head. Her response was, I don't know. I just know that I'm suffering and I need help. Her Neo-Advaita brainwashing responded, there's no you. You are fullness. You don't need help. Her, but I'm suffering. I don't know what to do. There's nothing to do except realize you don't exist because you are consciousness. All of your problems stem from the fact that you don't recognize your consciousness. But I need help. No, you don't. You're fullness itself. Everything is fine. So that's the dialogue that went on in her head. That's what Neo-Advaita will do. It will reprogram how you think to such an extent that you can't even have a normal conversation with yourself or someone else. Someone who goes really deep down Neo-Advaita, they literally cannot have a conversation where they're not talking about Neo-Advaita concepts. It becomes like a drug that you just have to do all the time, to think all the time and speak all the time. And then this poor person, it happened to all of us, they internalized the bullshit that they heard in satsang, and then they started Neo-Advaita satsanging themselves. Luckily, they broke out of that cycle and have begun to recover from it. So it's because, and I'll get to your comment in 1 second, Rowan. So that's why I take Neo-Advaita seriously in my own process of recovering from it and trying to help other people, because it gets in deep. It completely reprograms, not completely, but it reprograms how we think, and not in a good way, in a very destructive, twisted way, and in a way that actually then creates a closed loop where it's hard to think outside of the brainwashing. Thank you, Rowan. I am, oops, I hid someone's message by accident. That was not, hold on. Heart of a Warrior, please, hold on one sec. I will read your message. I didn't mean to delete it. Huh. I clicked the wrong button. Heart of the Warrior. Sorry, please put your message again. Thank you, Rowan Growan. Yes, terrible. I'm very happy for you to break out. I'm in the process of breaking out. It's this ongoing, that's why I call it recovery from Neo-Advaita, because it's this ongoing journey. And again, Heart of the Warrior, so sorry. I will read your message. That was an accident. Okay. Anton says, I recently heard that my old teacher had died from a heart attack, a young man. Perhaps the young man dissociated so hard that his heart stopped beating. So sad. Anton, I mean, I don't know, but Neo-Advaita actually negatively impacts the body. So this is to make a complex topic simple, different meditative practices impact the body differently. And Neo-Advaita aggravates. In Ayurveda, they say that there's 3 doshas, kapha, pitta, and vata. Neo-Advaita aggravates vata, which is wind. And I don't know what the specific condition was, but what I'll say is Neo-Advaita has a harmful impact on the body for sure. Heart of a Warrior says, we need a bridge to reach the destination. We cannot neglect karma yoga and bhakti yoga and artificially jump up the meditation or oneness. You can't have the recipe without all the ingredients. Oh my God, Heart of a Warrior, that's profound truth. And again, I'm so sorry that message got deleted. Hold on. Okay. That is just spot on. And I'm going to drop by your page after this and leave you a message. That's exactly what I'm learning from this traditional Swamini, is that karma yoga and bhakti yoga are essential. And that's actually what Ramana Maharshi taught, but most people just ignore that. Artificially jump up the meditation to oneness. Truth. Neo-Advaita is very artificial. Love your insights. I would be curious to hear who you studied with. Most people don't realize or see this. So beautifully said. I'm very, very curious about how you had that insight. Thank you. Anton, I do believe the practice does physical damage eventually, if you're not prepared for it. It's not that if you're not prepared for it. And of course, as I've said many times, Neo-Advaita is a dissociative practice. So, yeah. I wonder if I can pin that message. It won't let me. Heart of a Warrior, sorry about that. Just your insight was spot on. So that's everything I have to share for today. Thank you, everybody. And I'm pretty amazed that Heart of the Warrior, that you speak of that. Oh, good. You're still here. Yay, Heart of a Warrior. In traditional Advaita Vedanta, in all of Vedic Dharma, meaning the philosophies of India, karma yoga and bhakti yoga are like the foundation. But in traditional Advaita Vedanta, they're the foundation as well. This Swamini I'm studying with, she said, you cannot pursue non-duality without Dharma, that's karma yoga, and without Bhagavan, that's bhakti yoga, having a relationship with the Supreme. Heart of the Warrior. Neo-Advaita thinks liberation is salvation is a birthright and something which is doable by human intelligence. We are not the doers. God is the doer. So in terms of doership, I'm just going to set that aside. I don't even think about such complicated subjects right now. I'm not affirming or denying what you're saying there. I just put those ideas aside, and now I take all my questions now to the Swamini that I'm studying with. So what I will say is that according to her and according to traditional Advaita Vedanta, we've been given 3 powers by God. The power to desire, the power to act or pursue desires, and the power to know. And that part of the process is learning how to employ those powers. So, and she even went so far as to say, our life is a co-creation in the sense that as we fulfill our Dharma, we have impact on outcomes. Because part of karma yoga is surrendering the outcome, that we don't create the result, but we do influence. And that's her teaching on that, and I'm going to follow that. I love what you said. Neo-Advaita think liberation or salvation is a birthright. Neo-Advaita, I would say that Neo-Advaita teaches we can make it happen just through your own efforts. Like, you can make it happen. Where traditional Advaita says we have to strive for it, but the ultimate result, like every result, is in Bhagavan, which you can't really translate as God, but it's the Supreme's hands. The timing of moksha is in the divine's hands, and we must strive for it. That's my understanding of the traditional teaching. Yoshi said, Neo-Advaita emphasizes direct experience of non-dual. This can lead to lack of grounding. Neo-Advaita teachers often adopt a sense of superiority over those who do not share those views. I agree. I completely agree with both of those. And, this idea of lack of grounding, not only does it lead to lack of grounding, it leads to lack of having a map for what to do with life, how to navigate life. But here's the kicker. It also leads to a lack of grounding of the experience of consciousness. Like, it's very easy to go to a Neo-Advaita satsang or do Neo-Advaita meditation and have the experience, the temporary experience of knowing one's true nature, of consciousness. But it gets completely cut off from the rest of your life. And that's what Neo-Advaita doesn't offer. An integrated way how to integrate that experience into your life. And here's where it really steps out. It doesn't teach you how to integrate that into living, into making decisions, and into day-to-day living. And that's what karma yoga is. How to live the principle of oneness. How to treat. Like, if everything is one, well, how do I relate to you? How do you relate to me? How do I relate to the world? How to live oneness. And that arrogance, that superiority, I mean, I took it on. I thought I was more enlightened than everybody because I knew intellectually, I knew this philosophy, or I knew parts of it. I knew, arrogance is a definite danger in any spiritual path. And I think Neo-Advaita really amps that arrogance up a bit. Thank you, everyone, for these beautiful comments. I'm just sharing my very limited knowledge and experience. I'm not a guru. Please don't blindly believe anything I say. Please study traditional scriptures. And scripture isn't the word. It's called Shastra, books of knowledge. And then find a teacher who actually teaches what's in alignment with those books of knowledge and has a traditional lineage. A teacher who had a teacher who had a teacher who had a teacher. That's my recommendation. Spiritual bypassing is not healthy. And Neo-Advaita is nothing more and nothing less than spiritual bypass. I would know. I got a PhD in spiritual bypassing. Thank you so much, everyone, for dropping by. Thanks for your participation. Yoshi, Heart of the Warrior, Anton, and Rowan Growan. And Heart of the Warrior, again, very struck by your insights. I don't hear many people talking about that. Anton, it is also funny how we believe we are more enlightened than others, but then we also claim that there's only one self. Neo-Advaita is riddled with contradictions. And actually, that's what I'll close on. Traditional non-duality, like if you go study the text and the Shastras, in some ways, there's even contradictions within the Shastras because language is always contradictory. And that's why you need a guru, or paradoxical, I could say. And that's why you need a guru to unpack these paradoxes, such as what I started with, the parable of the river that merges with the ocean. So the mind gets a hold of that and spins all these untrue interpretations. And I would know because I did it for like 20 plus years. And so you need a guru who's actually well versed in the traditional text and had training under a teacher who can unpack this, just in a few sentences. This Swamini unpacked just in a few simple sentences. She unpacked this distorted story that I had created based on that metaphor. And for those who weren't here at the beginning, again, what she said is it's not so much that the river merges into the ocean as that the river realizes that it's of the same nature as the ocean. And then from that realization, it can continue to be a river. It can enjoy being a river in a way that's actually helpful, that's enjoyable, and actually helpful. Peter's Laboratory. New Age gurus, especially the ones who called themselves successors of Ramana Maharshi, like Muji and Ganguji, make millions while spouting Neo-Advaita nonsense to keep their followers tied on a leash. That's why I say Neo-Advaita is cult-like. It's very cult-like. And yes, I agree that the way these teachers teach keeps people on a leash so that they can make more money. And there's many other benefits you can straight up have servants. It's twisted and disgusting, and buyer beware. Thank you for that, Peter's Laboratory. I wish everyone a beautiful, beautiful day. Take care.